Hi, welcome to Business Influencers. My name is Chris Salem, your host. Again, you found us here at TALRadio. We are excited that you're here, and each and every week we bring in subject matter experts to share their words of wisdom and insights to elevate your business influence to the next level. If you are new to TALRadio, welcome, and you could also follow us as well on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube channel at TALRadio as well. Again, if you have any questions in regards to any of the subject matter experts that we have on the show, feel free to reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com. Or if there's any subject matter you'd like to see on a future show, let us know. We'll be more than happy to entertain, to make sure that it is covered, to help move your level of influence to the next level. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types, and an opportunity to rekindle old relationships and meet new people for the first time. Now, this is a membership program, meaning that it takes all the noise out of social media, so no more of those noisy notifications. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships on your time, and an opportunity now to share content that is relevant to what you want to do and bond with others. Now, because it's a membership program, it offers a wide array of different services available to you personally and professionally, helping you to move you professionally and personally to the next level. Again, something that you cannot get elsewhere. If you'd like more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the resilient mindset, navigating life's chaos. Well, I can tell you, we've been through a lot of chaos recently, starting with COVID back at the start of 2020. Then obviously there's always different things going on, but how you can take resilience, not on a situational level, but on a daily level, and really elevate your performance to the next level. We're going to be here with Dean Gialamas, and Dean is a uber successful intrapreneur, certified high-performance coach, and an energetic keynote speaker, facilitator, instructor, innovator, and author in the areas of technology, government reform, business operations, strategic planning, and executive management and leadership. He has over 34 years of progressively responsible success in government positions in private industry, with 20 of those years in high-level executive management. Now, since 2006, he has been a sought-after and highly regarded mentor for executive managers from all across the U.S. and from 6 continents. Now, at CEO Authority, he mentors and business owners, C-suite executives, high-level directors of management teams to equip and engage and empower themselves and their organizations for extraordinary discovery, decision-making, and peak performance. This can be individually or co-working alongside you and your entire team, building off your organization's vision, mission, and goals. By delivering keynote speeches, workshops, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and just about anything that can serve you to the next level, Dean helps your team identify specific areas for development, and he works with you, and he will fine-tune any leadership skills to optimize team performance in leadership capacity. And you'll learn more about Dean and how to get in contact with him here later in the show. And without further ado, we welcome Dean to the show. Dean, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Chris. Thank you very much for the invite today. I'm super excited to be with you and your listeners.
We are so excited to have you here. So let's talk about the resilient mindset. So before we talk about, I guess, the mindset, what is resilience? When you think about that word resilience, why is it so important that people should understand that it's not a situational thing. It's something that if we embrace every day, it could be a game changer in our business and level of influence.
Great question. And I love the idea that you're level setting this, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking of resilience as this idea that they have to eliminate challenge or crisis in your life. And for those of us that have lived life, you know that you can't eliminate it, right? It's there. It impacts you. It's part of the daily life. Resilience to me is simple. It's simply learning how to quickly bounce back from that challenge or crisis. And if you can learn the tools, which we'll get into today, just as a high level, scratch the surface kind of point, that's the secret. So the secret is just learning how to quickly rebound and bounce back.
Wow, that's great. I love that. And in terms of, there's so many things going on in business, so many things going on in our life. Many of these things are beyond our control. We can't control situations, we can't control people. How can developing a resilient mindset allow us now to, release the control over the things we can't control and focus on the things that we can to move us forward?
Yeah, they say that crisis is the true test of leadership, and I can stand before you as a man very experienced in crisis, right? I've had so many different areas where that has impacted me, and I'm sure everyone can think of areas that it's impacted them. I like to think of the tools that I teach the people that I coach and that I speak to around the idea of three things. I call it my E3 methodology, but it's just simply this. It's around equip, engage, and empower. And the idea is that first you have to equip yourself. You got to give yourself some tools, maybe even some grace at the beginning to understand that crisis happens and you've got to develop some tools to be able to ready yourself for when that occurs. It's like an athlete, right? An athlete has to be ready to go into performance. You don't just show up and perform. We don't just say I'm really interested in baseball and you show up to the major leagues and say I'm ready to stand at bat, right? There's preparation that comes into play. The second piece after equip is the engage piece. You got to engage with yourself and you have to engage with your environment to ensure that you're creating and controlling eventually what happens, because attitude is everything, and as attitude is something that we get a choice to control. And oftentimes we let our emotions lead that effort instead of our prefrontal cortex, our rational and critical thinking side of our mind. And then lastly, after engage, is this idea of empower. Once you learn those tools and you feel empowered and you feel the ability of I know this is difficult and I know this is something that is a great challenge for me, but because I know how to equip and engage myself and I've got some tools, I know I can overcome this. And that empowerment for yourself is important. And those are the three areas that I like to focus in on.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that. And what would you recommend, for business leaders or even their teams, that are looking now, they're facing challenging times. There's a lot of uncertainty in maybe certain industries. Where does it start, Dean? Like, where does it start at the individual level? Start with awareness, like you're sharing here with the listeners, and then from there, like what could be some things that they can do to start moving themselves away from that fear-based mindset, that fixed mindset, where now they can start to adopt, see chaos, see challenges as opportunities to grow and expand, not to resist and run away from.
Right. No, absolutely. So I think you said it best, and that was this idea of preparation and personal readiness. I like to use the visual. It's something I think everybody has experienced. You're sitting on an airplane, you've just boarded, and the flight attendants start their speech, and they always talk about something dropping from the ceiling.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's the classic airline masks that come out. And we all know the reason why. You have to take care of yourself first in order to take care of others. And, leaders in businesses, people who lead their families, who, are responsible for them. Maybe you have a team that you lead. You're not like the CEO or the business owner, but you have a team that you're responsible for. That's the first step. It's the personal obligation of, are you showing up ready? Are you in the state of mind and in the state of physical being that you're as ready as you can possibly be? Most of us are familiar with kind of the four dimensions, right? The social, mental, or emotional, physical, and spiritual kinds of things. So, and I think, if you just take one example, like this idea of what is your physical readiness, because that's something I think that everybody can relate to. What kind of exercise are you getting? What kind of foods are you eating, and are you eating right? Or what kind of sleep are you getting? And sleep is a great example because it's something that everybody, I think, has struggled with at some point, right? And I don't think people realize that just the fact that someone who sleeps 6 hours a night instead of 8 hours a night for 2 days, your capacity, your ability to deliver, your reaction time diminishes by 15%.
Yeah,
and if you take
true.
that to the next level where you say, okay, if I had 10 days of just not getting all the sleep I need, your equivalent is operating as being without sleep for 24 hours. And yet so many of us wake up in this world showing up as zombies, if you will, because we have a lack of sleep. So that's just one example, right? So like a tip that I can give your listeners to just think about is, are you getting enough sleep? I mean, a test for me is, can I wake up every day without an alarm? Do I have to get shocked into, starting my day, or am I excited to start my day? Do I wake up on my own? Just one way of kind of looking at things in a different way.
No, absolutely. I love what you shared there. So, so true. I love it. And, in this process of shifting to a resilient mindset, there's always, like, I know, like, we live in this world, we want instant gratification. We want the results. And, in the real world, that this just doesn't exist. That it's those people and organizations that trust this process, that not everybody's going to, like, change over time on the same wavelength. People are going to do it at different paces. But if we can put it together an environment or a psychologically safe place where people can begin to do that, how would that look like, Dean? What would be from your perspective with CEO Authority, like, how organizations can start do that process?
Yeah, I think first is just the transparency about talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times as leaders, we feel like we can't be vulnerable, or we can't share the fact that we're struggling with it ourselves. And I was like that. I thought, the idea of success was perfection. I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? I've realized that, I have to get over myself and my mistakes, right? Right. We're all raising our hands like, yeah, been there, been there. So I think that's, the first part. The second part is, it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And this is a typical, aspect of growth and learning, right? When you think of growth, what you start with is the comfort zone, right? We're all sitting pretty, we're all feeling comfortable, nothing's happening. Then, and wham, some event happens, some crisis happens, comes into play, and it rocks our world, and we get thrust immediately into the fear zone. And that fear zone becomes the determining point. You either step out of it and go into the learning and growth phase, which is the uncomfortable part, or you say, you know what, I'm not ready to be uncomfortable. I'm just going to sit back on the comfort couch and go through life the way that is easy for me. And the trigger there is understanding when you get in the fear zone. And what I like to teach people and showcase for folks is, fear shouldn't be the scary part that pushes you back to comfort. If you really think about fear from an awareness standpoint, fear is the gateway. It's opening the door to learning and growth. And if you can just understand that in your mind, and you asked about a mindset, right, or a shift, it's a great way that I like to tell people is like, hey, when fear is knocking on your door, you don't run, you answer it, because you got to see what's on the other side. That's what learning and growth is about.
Got it. I love it. I love it. So such great information. And and what I love about this is everybody learns in a different way. So you said create that psychologically safe space, and now people can now have an option. How are they going to learn to do this on their own? I mean, are there various resources? Maybe there's different modalities that maybe one person can learn that way, and then another person learns that way, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, if you think about how we see the world, right? When we have fear or we experience discomfort, it's usually because it's something that has influenced us in the past. And there's a concept called the BEAR loop, if your listeners haven't heard about this. And BEAR is an acronym, and it's around what you believe. So the B influences what you expect. That's the E. And then what you expect will influence how you act. And then how you act influences your results. So BEAR stands for beliefs that turn into expectations, that turn into actions, that turn into results. So if you want to change your results, you have to backtrack that, right? So you have to change the way you act. And people say, yeah, but that's really hard. Okay, well then let's change the way that you expect the outcome to come to play. So one of the tools I tell people is come up with a trigger word for yourself, whatever it happens to be. I'll be vulnerable. My trigger word is this. Thanks for sharing. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but what I tell myself is, if I get into a point where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to overthink something, I'm starting to turn crisis into fear, and this whole idea of I'm beyond discomfort, I'm wallowing in my own sorrow, I just block myself and just literally say, sometimes out loud, Dean, thanks for sharing. Because what it does to your subconscious is it creates an interruption in that bare loop process. Because now your beliefs and expectations are stopped, they're interrupted. It allows you to think. And so that becomes a trigger. So one aspect is just find a trigger word for yourself, whatever it happens to be, to stop you in that moment to say, I just need to rethink about this. It reframes perspectives for you. Another great tool is just to ask people, again, being vulnerable, to have them call you out when you're doing something, right? My wife and I do this. So my wife will sometimes say like, we learned, we use a term racket. So we just say like, there you go, you're throwing a racket out again, right? You're making this stuff up. You're letting your head spin this into something that it's more than it really is in physical appearance or in reality. So that's the way we call each other out. And in a group setting, what you might want to do is just talk about this in a debrief kind of way. And not because you're trying to address personalities and people, but you're just trying to address concepts and say, you know what, it's okay to share that uncomfortableness. You're creating a safe space for people to be able to be vulnerable and share that information.
Wow, that's fabulous. I love that. That's great information here, what you're sharing. I know for me, I learned the hard way, Dean, and everything you shared. I remember going through this process 25 years ago, shifting away from a fixed to a growth mindset. And I don't even think the term resiliency was even being used at that time, but it's so true. When I look at situations, I look at it for what it is, not what necessarily what I think it should be. I look at it, how can I adapt or maximize what I can within my control in this situation? So now I'm more likely to respond from a favorable emotion or a positive emotion rather than from a negative emotion and react to it, because reacting ain't going to help me at all.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, does it, like, in essence, what you're sharing, it will impact so many different things, like how we communicate, how we lead, how we make decisions, how we take action, take risk with it. I mean, I love to hear from you on that and how that just impacts all those areas for leadership.
Totally. I think most people refer to it nowadays as the ripple effect. It's the idea that, if we take time and effort to learn and become better about ourselves, what you do is you're able to share that and you create a better world for other people. I like to tell people, if you want someone else to show up better in life, then you need to show up better in life. When you go first, when you're the one that takes that first uncomfortable leap or journey, you create that trust and that authenticity, even in your vulnerable state, to be able to demonstrate that. And that ripple effect is so powerful that it affects everybody around you. Some of the latest research, and the areas of research that I love to study is the intersection of physiology, psychology, and performance. Those three areas are like key. And as an athlete, because I'm an athlete myself, I'm a mountain biker, I actually race. So I really have the nexus of performance in terms of athletics is no different than the performance in what we do as leaders. And by the way, leaders doesn't mean that you're the boss at work. Leaders could be just you're responsible for a family. Maybe you're a head of a household. Maybe you're a single parent and you're taking care of the sandwich generation of elders and youth in your life. And that's real, right? That's reality for us. But that ripple effect research shows that as you begin to improve and as you make improvements, even small ones, 10, 15% improvements, just notches of change. Do you know the latest research suggests that 9 out of 10 people you interact with will be better and show up better just because you do? I mean, do you understand how powerful that is?
It's right? So, your example is so powerful, just like you said. Yeah.
9
wait a minute. That oxygen mask came down. They put it on maybe I can do that. I don't have to have somebody do it. I can do that. That type of thing.
Right. And now that I have my mask on, I can help everybody else around me. What you're basically saying is I get to help at least 9 out of 10 people around me.
Exactly.
On average. That's powerful.
Yeah. It's so true. I love that. You're helping people to help themselves through your example too. And that's so powerful about resiliency when they can see, well, hey, I'm not the only one struggling here, or I can choose to struggle, or I can choose to see it as an opportunity to grow. So maybe I can change the way I look at it, and I won't struggle as much. I can now respond versus react to this uncomfortableness, and I know it's shaping me to be a stronger and better leader. To be able to go through this and do more. So yeah.
Absolutely. And when it comes to leadership, the idea of trust becomes important, right? Whether it's trust in families, trust in an organization, trust with your team. And there's a process for that too. It's called the know, like, and trust cycle. So a lot of people think like, well, once they like me, they'll learn to trust me. That's actually not true. They have to know you first. And the order is important. They have to know you before they like you, and then they have to like you before they trust you. So the know you part is where the vulnerability comes into play. If you're not vulnerable first, they're never going to get to know you. And if they don't know you, they won't know if they like you. And if they don't know if they like you, then trust becomes questionable. It becomes a challenge instead of something that becomes natural. So I have learned the hard way. I used to think that, oh, I need to get people to like me based on my success or my accolades or something else. And I've realized that the more vulnerable I've become, the more I've shared about failures and the experiences of my life, the more people go like, wow, I can connect with that guy because I've had that same thing. They know you, and then they start to like you because they're like, wow, this guy's really got something going. And then you build that relationship toward trust. And some of that aspect of resilience, just to tie it back to the topic of the day, is so important because as a leader, you've got to be able to demonstrate resilience and better yet, teach it to those who need it on your team and in your life. And so if you have mastered that skill yourself, putting on your oxygen mask, you can then demonstrate and show it to other people. And that's where that ripple effect, tying it back in, becomes so important.
I love it. I love it. What you how you call it a ripple effect. It could be like, like again, like you could look at it as a puzzle, one piece at a time. I can't control what I don't have with the other pieces, but I control what I do have with the pieces I have. And that's all I got to do to keep moving the ball forward and so on. So, wow. Great information that you're sharing here. We hope everyone that's listening is taking notes because this is really valuable information on the resilient mindset. Dean, anything else that you didn't share already that you think is important when it comes to this process of resiliency, starting at the individual, the team, and then the organizational level?
Yeah, so I shared with the equip side, right, about our personal readiness, and then engage was about like kind of getting into your head and your mind and kind of working with other people. Then the next piece is really the empower piece, right? So that's the environment we work in and all those around us. And so the concept there is, I love Jim Collins, his book Good to Great, and he talks about this concept of the flywheel. And the flywheel is an awesome example of this because if you're relentless about learning and growth, you'll realize that you're never done. In fact, the more you learn, the more you realize the more you have to learn, right? So and those who study leadership and those who study, self-development know this, but it's not so much the grinding that's important, but it's about the process. It's about being relentless about pushing for those goals and building that momentum so you get the breakthrough point. And why do you want to break through? Because look, let's face it, all of us want to be more, all of us want to do more, and all of us want to have more. It's almost like a fundamental of most people. And let's even be transparent about it, right? So, a lot of people say like, oh, it's important to be happy. And if I'm, get this accolade, or if I get this payment, or if I get this pay scale, I'll be happy. Yeah, but ultimately it's fulfillment. And like for me, fulfillment is that true sense of passion and achievement. And if you want to live what I call a rad life, you've got to be able to get to that point of really understanding what that fulfillment is. And so some of those things when it comes to resilience are these things going to matter like 3 hours from now, 3 days from now, or 3 years from now? Because if so, like, what are we getting all uptight over it? And I'll take a silly example. We've all experienced that, what, fill in the blank driver on the freeway, on the highway, cuts you off. You can get all upset over it. You can get animated. You might even give them some hand gestures, a horn honk, maybe yell through your window, hoping you'd hear what you'd have to say, right? And we get all uptight and upset over it. But the question then becomes, in terms of resilience, how do we show up when we walk in the door? Are we angry with our significant other or children and the dog because I walk in the door because I'm upset because this Yahoo cut me off? Because, the reality is that guy who was the jerk to you has already gone home, has probably got his feet up on the couch, drinking an adult beverage and enjoying life. Well, you're a complete wreck, right? So relentless, this idea of resilience is saying like, no, I got to learn to let that go. So it's understanding that empowerment is that, you know what, we get to control ourselves. It's our choice about what we control in our attitude. No one else does. And part of what I like to teach people is like, you look, that's the keys to your kingdom. You would never give your keys to a house to someone you don't know. So why would you give the keys to your mental state away to someone else?
Yeah, so true. And I think, like you said, it just improves, relationships and it just, it's like you said, that ripple effect is, it's so important what you shared there. So much valuable information. I know we're at towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure that I want to expand on this topic. So we're definitely going to have you on a future show for this, so we can expand further. Can you let the audience know that that might want to get more information either for them personally or in their business? How can they reach out to you? What are you up to? Anything you'd like to provide for them?
Yeah, sure. So thank you. So a couple of ways. One, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm there constantly. I'm posting several days a week. So anybody who wants to search for me on LinkedIn, it's just my name, Dean Gialamas. You can also look up CEO Authority. So both my company and my name are there on LinkedIn. If your guests are interested, I am offering like an infographic summarizing today's events. It's just a one pager. If they want to text, and I'll put the number out now, and maybe you can put it in the post as well.
Yes.
It's 657-500-5045. So 657-500-5045. If you text the word Salem, your last name,
Yeah.
to that
That's easy to
text,
remember.
it'll be really easy for you to remember, and hopefully for your guests too. If they just text the word Salem, what it'll do is it'll ask you for your name and your email address, and then as soon as you complete that, it'll email the infographic out to you with
That's
just some
wonderful.
basics and a little more depth of what we talked about today.
That's wonderful. And we want to highly encourage everyone to take Dean up on this offer. This is some valuable information. We can only talk about so much, but he touched on some of the main points here to kind of give you an idea. And there is so much more that Dean will be able to go into more length for you as you do a deeper dive individually, as a team, and as an organization. This is so important that a lot of times we take for granted because we don't realize how powerful the resilient mindset is. Well, Dean, I want to thank you very much personally for taking time out of your busy day to be here, not only for myself, but also the folks here at TALRadio. We want to thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was an honor to be here, and I look forward to maybe being a part of your podcast in the future. It was a real pleasure today. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we want to thank you, listeners, each and every week joining us here at Business Influencer. Again, we are committed each and every week for bringing in subject matter experts like Dean, sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate your business and level of influence to the next level. We hope the information shared here helps you to do just that. And again, we highly encourage you always to reach out to Dean and all of our guests that we've had on in the past that can help move you and your level of influence to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.